Right, it's 3 minutes past midnight. Gordon Smart here, and for the next hour, we're going to be talking musicology with a man who has his very own sound garden. You can identify it by the screaming trees, the stone roses, and the Kate Bush. It's time to summon the doctor.
Weeknights with Gordon Smart.
Big nod to Rudy, who writes wonderful intros on this section every week to make us all smile. Thank you, Rudy, you legend. Right, he's called Dr. Joe Bennett. We call him Dr. B. His day job involves teaching at the Berklee College of Music in Boston, but we get hold of him as Monday turns into Tuesday to listen to some great songs, learn something new, and appreciate them in perhaps a way we didn't before. So, Joe Bennett, first of all, how are you doing? Welcome to the show tonight.
Oh, well, thank you, Gordon. Yeah, it's been a very busy week. I did a really American thing at the weekend. I went to my first ice hockey game.
No.
Because up here in New England, it gets really cold and, it's not so far to the Canadian border. And the Americans, of course, call it hockey. And if you remember, Gordon, our very first show, we looked at sports walk-on themes.
Yes.
And I learned that there's a whole genre of music that is associated with ice hockey walk-ons, mainly AC/DC, not going to lie, but it was fantastic. Yeah, great experience, and hearing all that rock going around an echoic stadium. So busy weekend too.
Brilliant. You know what, Joe, I love most about you right now is that there's a seismic moment in global politics since we last spoke, but I'm delighted that you chose to talk to me about ice hockey because it feels appropriate to this section on the show. Let's ignore the politics and talk about music, eh?
Well, indeed. Yeah, I did that. I exercised my democratic right as an American citizen to go and vote back last week, but I don't want to talk about that, Gordon. I want to talk about music.
Right, let's do that. Let's get our ears back on the prize, if that's even a thing. So, Joe, we're talking about something that I'm delighted about tonight because I would love to be musically gifted enough to get involved in more three-part vocal harmonies, maybe a barbershop quartet or something like that, but it's all about harmonies tonight, right?
It really is. Since there have been humans singing, which I imagine is as long as there have been humans, there have been humans singing together. And as soon as you have more than one human singing different notes from each other, you have harmony. And this is a particular positive bias of mine. I just love vocal harmonies. And yeah, it was an embarrassment of riches in the putting together of the show tonight. There were so many songs that we wanted to have on air.
Yeah, I should, without letting any secrets away, you are like the Willy Wonka with your Oompa Loompas helping you pull this together. But the long list for you and the elves has been serious. How do you cobble that list down, Joe? I mean, it's like choosing a set list for a band.
It really is, when I was playing in bands, don't do that anymore, but the basic rule is you want something snappy to grab people's attention. You put the slow song about third or fourth in, and you end with a bang. That's the basic rules of band set lists, and then another bang for the encore. But for the show, it's a bunch of responsibilities that I feel we have. So yeah, as you say, when I have my elves, Rafi and John, helping me to put this together, the rule is that we have to have something for all ages. So there's usually something from the 50s to the 2020s. There has to be something from a diversity of cultural backgrounds or geographical backgrounds. We try to make sure there is always some hip-hop because hip-hop is the world's favourite music, statistically. And we try to make it something that Five Live listeners will hopefully enjoy actually having on the radio for an hour. So it's quite a balancing act to get all that in and follow all the rules. But I'm really pleased with what the team's put together for tonight. We've got some real fantastic examples, and we brought an extra factor in for today's show because we wanted to demonstrate different kinds of vocal harmony approaches. So hopefully we can get a little bit technical and talk about that stuff.
Excellent. Excellent stuff. Right, we're going to do the quiz in just a second as well with that theme. But before we do, just quickly mention that I once heard that Keith Richards always got his solo song in a Rolling Stones gig because men of a certain age would need to go to the bathroom, and that was the best chance to do it. Get Keith to do one of yours, Keith. Let everybody nip out, and we'll get back to the Rolling Stones songs in a minute. Right, so Joe, our vocal harmony tonight, there's a little bit where you do the quiz, and it's people are waiting tonight. 85058 if you want to get involved. Last week, I think Joe was triumphant again, so can you beat Dr. Beat tonight? What are we doing, Joe?
Okay, so these are all simply harmony hits. So it's usually the chorus, because that's when, it's a chorus of people singing together. And these are huge hits, mid-60s to 2024 and everything in between. And the only thing they have in common is great vocal harmonies in the chorus. So there are 7 questions. I'm going to give you the year. And I think that's all I'm going to give you because these are super well-known songs. And simply name the song.
Excellent. Right, here we go. 85058 on the text if you want to get involved. Take it away, Joe.
Question 1. This song was released in 1966. Question 2. This multiple layers of harmony were actually 3 voices multiplied on a multi-track, and this song was released in 1969. Question 3. This is a real oldie. This is from 1954. I'm not going to ask you to name the artist because actually 4 artists had a hit with this song within a year of each other. So this is one of the versions of this song. Simply name the song. So, map, 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 map. Just sing that backwards and you'll get it. Number 4. This trio, I'm going to say, recorded this track in 1969. Question 5. This song came out in 1965. Question 6. This song came out in 2024 and is still in the charts in the Hot 100 globally today. And finally, this song came out in 2001. Seven harmonised songs. Name the track.
Oh, well, I'm trying to play along as I always do. I think Joe might have stumped me on a couple there. 85058, please get involved. As I say, the regulars are already trying their best. We would love to hear from you. 85058. We'll give you a little reminder in about half an hour's time if you missed any there. Right, so let's start with an act that many cite as being an influence when it comes to singing in harmony. We're going to go back to the 50s, 1958 to be precise, and the Everly Brothers. This is All I Have to Dream.
Dream, 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 dream when I want you, in my arms when I want you, and all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream.
Amazing.
Dream, dream, dream when I feel blue in the night, and I need you to hold me tight whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream. I can make you mine, taste your lips of wine anytime, night or day. Only trouble is, gee whiz, I'm dreaming my life away. I need you so that I could die. I love you so
want to listen to even more of that, Dr. Beat, great selection there. All I Have to Do Is Dream, Everly Brothers. You know, Joe, when I was younger, we used to go on these, I seem to remember, really long car journeys to places like Minehead or the south of France or whatever, where my dad would drive in a terrifying fashion. And we had a double cassette of the sounds of the 50s, sounds of the 60s, sounds of the 70s. And I remember that being on it, because I remember thinking, gee whiz, imagine a song in the 50s having a term like gee whiz in it. But the vocal harmonies, listening back, are absolutely magical. So what is it about this song then, Joe, that made it so important to this section tonight?
Well, I think the Everly Brothers are so famous for doing that thing that they do of two voices. And of course, being brothers, kind of genetically, the voices work really well together. They blend really well together. Mm-hmm. But I think this is just the sound of growing up singing together for years and years and years. Their intonation is so on it. And, you know, a lot of people, when they try and do an Everly's, they just harmonise in thirds, you know, so they just one voice sings a third higher than the other, and the Everlys do a lot of that, but the parts actually aren't that simple. You've got the main melody, dream, but the counter melody does not track it exactly, so you get fourths and fifths and different intervals, even though there's only two voices going on at the same time. So with that particular track, and actually with a lot of the early hits, Bye Bye Love and Wake Up Little Susie, you might remember we talked a little bit about this in the cover version show many months ago. When they were signed to Warner Brothers Records in 1960, they re-recorded a lot of the old hits. I think that might have been actually the 60s version we were hearing, because I think I recognised Chet Atkins' tremolo guitar part there. But they were really quite, well, obviously influential, as you said. So many people who were teenagers in that era went on to be the sort of rock and roll innovators of the mid to late 60s. So many people cite them as an influence. But I think in their own right, they're really important. The harmony thing, but also there's a sort of Everly strum technique that people talk about. Don Everly, who played most of the rhythm guitars. Let me see if I can do it here.
Yes. Reaches for
so
guitar.
Essentially, any excuse to strum a guitar. So if you're just strumming a chord, you know, a lot of people will, let's say we strum an A chord, really simple. You might strum it just A to the bar, up and down. But the Everlys would often emphasize the backbeat because they were working in very small bands, and in 1958 they were sort of quite primitive recordings. So if I just play, you know, a regular strum with a slight swing in A, it's kind of boring. But if you sort of lean into the backbeat and emphasize the 2 and the 4, you get, and I'll speed it up a bit, 2, 3, 4. And you, let's do... So it's kind of percussive as well as being rhythmic. And I think the energy that comes off a lot of those, certainly the Cadence recordings from 1958, part of it is down to the guitar part as well as the distinctive vocal sound.
Amazing. And 2 takes, apparently, to get the original mono version of that in 1958. Absolutely. And you're right, by the way, Joe, I think that was the 1964 re-record. And that just proves, once again, that Joe's ears cannot be tricked. Absolutely wonderful. And what a great way to start. Great way to start.
Well, I love both versions. Love both versions of that.
Excellent stuff. Right, we're going to move on to 1991 and an act who seemed to be everywhere at the time. This is Boyz II Men, and It's So Hard to Say Goodbye.
I don't know where this road is going to lead. All I know is where we've been and what we've been through. If we get
there we we go. A bit of Boyz II Men at this time of night. Lovely stuff. So what do we need to know about this song, Joe?
Well, they were everywhere, but they were so much more than a boy band. You know, they were really culturally and musically significant, I think, because they were bringing together sort of R&B that was around at the time with a sort of a revival of the doo-wop tradition of the 50s of the a cappella band, and New Jack Swing, which was sort of doing the rounds in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. So what we were hearing there, because it's a completely a cappella song, was just the vocals creating what musicians call a pad. So the vocals are just giving this sort of ooh to under the main vocal, and that section was from verse 1. As the song goes on, there's a fantastic moment in verse 2, for those who know the song, where it's if we get, all these sort of bell-like effects cascade down, and it's absolutely beautiful. And at the time, I didn't really know, because obviously I wasn't in America at that time, early 90s, I didn't really know the cultural significance of that particular song for those particular artists. So it comes off their first album, which is entitled Cooley High Harmony. Well, Cooley High was a high school movie from 1975 that itself, it was sort of fairly standard coming-of-age story, but what was unusual about it, certainly for 75, it was telling stories of adolescent coming-of-age in a high school environment for black kids. So it's often been described as the sort of American Graffiti for the black community in the mid-70s. And that song actually comes from the movie, from Cooley High. It was originally sung by a chap called G.C. Cameron, who's with the Spinners. In fact, let me just play you a little bit of the G.C. Cameron version for comparison. Here's just 20 seconds of that.
I thought we'd get to see forever, but forever has flown away. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
So you can hear this sort of gospel Motown ballad arrangement going on, and they just took it and they made it into this fantastic a cappella arrangement. And of course, 1991, many years before auto-tune, they could really do it.
They could really, really do it. A couple of messages as well. Lethal Weapon 3, it was in a funeral scene. And that was, in 1992, yeah. So there we go. It's quite a tune, incredible vocal harmonies, beautiful stuff. Great choice, Joe. Right, we're going to have a listen to a bit of Queen now, and Bohemian Rhapsody era, but it's not that one. This is the Prophet song. Have a listen.
Ah, people, can you hear me? Listen to the wise man. Listen to the wise man. La 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 la.
I think think that might have been the most intense moment when Dr. Beat's been in charge in the past year. That really, I've never heard that before, the Prophet song, and it is a bit of Queen in the Bohemian Rhapsody era. That is unmistakably Freddie Mercury, but what on earth's going on there, Joe?
It's amazing, isn't it? I hope some of the Five Live listeners were listening to it on closed back stereo headphones or AirPods maybe, because the stereo on that is amazing. So yes, it's my personal favourite track of Night at the Opera. I mean, everyone loves Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's not as well known, obviously, and there's just so much going on. So it also fits my sort of brief that I gave to myself of wanting to show different approaches to vocal harmony. So this is arguably canon or perhaps fugue. So Freddie isn't actually harmonizing with himself on tape there. He's harmonizing with himself through a delay line. So they have a 1.6 second, yes, I measured it, a 1.6 second tape delay on his voice. And you hear Freddie center, listen to the wires, and then Freddie on the left, 1.6 seconds later, and then another Freddie, a third Freddie, a copy of the first take, on the right, another 1.6 seconds later. So over this, he sings in time with himself, and you can hear the voices sort of chasing each other. And like I say, I hope the listeners were, that some people got the experience of getting it on stereo, because it's really trippy. It's the trippiest song on Night at the Opera, in my opinion.
I was going to say, Joe, there's an old thing about what do you get your most value for money on a jukebox with, and Bohemian Rhapsody was always up there. Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight was always a good 8 minutes or something, but this was about 2 minutes longer than Bohemian Rhapsody, was it not, this song?
It is. It's actually the longest Queen song, and nobody ever talks about it. I want to give the Prophet song some love. I think it's fantastic.
Brian May wrote it as well, just in case you were wondering about it. Yeah, and there's I'm told a non-standard instrument, right? And what I love about Joe is that he's in a studio in Boston, and occasionally we get to meet a new instrument. But is there something different you can tell me about this, Joe?
Well, it's a koto. It's a toy koto, which is a percussion instrument that you play with a mallet, and you hear it on the intro. You get this sort of whooshing air sound. With the dong 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 on the koto with lots of reverb. Fun fact: the wind effect is created by recording the sound of an air conditioning unit and putting it through a phaser effect. Well, it was an experimental time in recording in '75.
There we go. That probably cost about £100,000 at the time as well. Excellent stuff, Joe. The Prophet song. Thank you for introducing me to that. It's a new one on me. Right, we're going to head into the world of folk now. We do cover a lot of ground. It's a broad church. This is a song by the Waylon Jennies, who hail from Canada, and this might be worth a bit of explanation before we play it then, Joe. So what are we listening out for?
Well, what I love about this is because there's three of them, and sometimes one of them sings, sometimes two of them, sometimes all three. And this is a song called One Voice, where they've sort of meta-incorporated the vocal harmonies into the narrative. So if we get to hear all three verses, we should hear, this is the sound of one voice, and then in verse 2 we hear, this is the sound of voices 2, and then they're in three-part in verse 3. So for maybe any listeners who've never had a chance to sing in harmony or really appreciate how many harmonies they're hearing, it's super clearly laid out here. 1, 2, and 3.
Right, here we go. Waylon Jennies from Canada. Have a listen to this.
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice.
Absolutely brilliant, Joe. Wailing Jennies, and that is One Voice. Oh, Joe, what a choice. I think you've sent me down a rabbit hole. And a reminder as well, if you want to listen to the playlist tonight, just look up Joe Bennett and you will find the 5 Live playlist somewhere there, Joe, right? Oh, Joe, have you disappeared? Oh, I think we might have lost Joe, which is a bit of a challenge for us. Joe, are you still there? Joe, can you hear me? It's the first technical glitch we've had after a long time. I think the Wailing Jennies have tripped us up slightly. I know that Joe's reached for guitar, which he likes to do. I think he's just working out what to do next. He's thinking about speaking to me again. He's back.
Yes.
Oh God, I don't have a guitar for me to reach to, Joe, to play out the next half hour.
It went a tiny bit silent at my end, a little technical flaw, but we're back. We're back.
You're back.
So yeah, the Wailing Jennies there. Lovely pentatonic melodies. It's we talked about the pentatonic scale many weeks ago. I think they're in D. So you get that. And then, of course, in verse 2, the harmony is actually lower. So instead of you get the D below. So. And then, as the song goes on, in verse 3, we get one below the melody and one above the melody, and they're working in diatonic thirds and fourths. So, yeah, really beautiful, and it's almost it's a super simple lesson in harmony and how it works on our emotions as well. You know, that song's so much about, lyrically, it's about sort of, together we can change the world. It's one of those sort of all hands to the pump sentiments, and I think it works really well with the harmonies there as the voices just become massed.
And written by Ruth Moody, who was a founding member. And when I was saying Wailing Jenning, it is based on Waylon Jennings, the country singer. Am I right in saying that, Joe?
Yes, it's slightly unfortunate. It is indeed a pun on the country singer Waylon Jennings, but they were playing live at a music conference. They named the band some time before, so the story goes, and he died that month. And then they were introduced at this music conference. It was really just unfortunate, you know. Here's the Waylon Jennies, and it sounded like they were sort of ridiculing him. They got a bit of hater stuff going on, which they didn't really deserve. But, maybe serves them right for choosing a dreadful pun as a name for the band. But great band and worth checking out online.
Great idea. Down the rabbit hole for me tonight, listening to more of that. Lovely, lovely voices. Right, we're going to have a listen to Jacob Collier now. This is from 2019. It is a cover version of a very familiar song written by Henry Mancini. You'll know it when you hear it. Enjoy this.
Crossing you in style someday. Oh, dream maker, you heartbreak. Don't be such a heartbreak. Wherever you're going, go with you. Such a lot of world to see. The same roses waiting round my huckleberry friend.
Absolutely incredible. Moon River, of course, and that was Jacob Collier. I should say, Joe, when you played the Everly Brothers earlier, that was a 2-take recording, but that sounds to me Like, it's incredibly complicated. Like, the vocals have been laid down time and time and time and time again, and there's quite a bit of expensive production. Am I completely wrong?
You're not completely wrong at all. How to even approach the music theory mountain that it is to talk about the work of Jacob Collier. I mean, the man is extraordinary. He is the J.S. Bach of our times. There is just so much cleverness. He knows more about harmony and understands the insides of harmony more than anyone I can think of. That track, as you heard, is incredibly sophisticated and layered. I believe there are 600 plus vocal tracks, all of them him, and just layered to produce that ethereal sound. You could take a 4-bar section of that song and talk about it for an hour in an analysis. There's just so much sophistication in there. You get those bell-like effects. You get some homophony. That is just the block harmony. He goes into little subtle groove sections and then back onto the melody, all while keeping the incredibly slow pulse of the main tune. Jacob Collier is on the record as talking about a thing called negative harmony, which is the theory that for every regular way of harmonizing an individual note in a melody, there is an opposite way based on the opposite sides of the circle of fourths in music theory. And he demos it live, and again, it's absolutely extraordinary. There's a super simple example of him saying, here's the melody of Hey Jude, and here it is harmonized with completely different chords, and it just sounds like a jazz tune. Just from the simple melody of Hey Jude. So yeah, he's amazing. There's nobody quite like him. I mean, his stuff is mostly cover versions. It's his arranging skill and his vocal skill that he's mainly known for. But if you're unfamiliar with Jacob Collier, do your ears a favor. And even the video for that, when we were figuring out the times of which bit to play back, it starts at 3:07. That bit that we just heard, because all the intro is just him singing glorious chords to ooh, and it doesn't get old. It really doesn't. The harmony just moves so extraordinarily beautifully.
Amazing. And the original wasn't bad either, was it?
Well, right, minimalist version, Audrey Hepburn on a rooftop with an acoustic guitar.
There you go.
You can love that too.
There's a great story about that. 1962, I think it was an Oscar and a Grammy, Best Song, Record of the Year. But the song nearly got cut by the studio because they didn't fancy it. And Audrey Hepburn said, "Over my dead body, it stayed in." What a wonderful bit of history there. Imagine that hadn't made it. Maybe Jacob Collier wouldn't have turned his attention to it all those years later. Lovely, lovely stuff. Right, I'm delighted. Joe has once again played to the crowd here because we're going to Scotland for the next choice and a bit more folk music. And this song is called The Parting Glass, and this particular version is by Boygenius and Ye Vagabonds.
Of all the money that e'er I spent it in good company, and of all the harm that e'er I've done, alas, it was to none but me. For all I've done, for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all.
Oh, it's magic, The Parting Glass, and that was Boygenius and Ye Vagabonds. Joe, I've got a lot of friends from Northern Ireland, and they always say one for the ditch. But when I worked in whiskey, there was often it's the parting glass, and it's the last drink before you head off home. This has got a bit of history, this song.
Well, I believe so. I mean, it's as with so many folk melodies, the actual origin of it is unknown, but we think sometime in the 1600s. And it is it was initially, again, I only learned this when I was researching the history. I knew the tune, but I didn't know that the history was that it is the song that was usurped by Auld Lang Syne in 1788. So when Auld Lang Syne kind of was released, is that the right term for 1788? Yeah. When that hit came out. A question for you, Gordon, as a dyed-in-the-wool Scot, was it Dyed in the Tartan? Well, is it still a parting song in Scotland? Is it still part of that culture?
I still think it is. Well, I mean, the parting glass is something I was familiar with, but it was mainly from drinking culture. I didn't know that this was a precursor to Auld Lang Syne, but Auld Lang Syne still is the last song of the night, isn't it? It's your way to bid everybody farewell as you head off into the night. So yeah, I think that's great knowledge though, Joe. And I didn't realise it was that old.
Yeah, and again another pentatonic melody. It has that timeless quality. So that version we were hearing was Boygenius, that is sort of supergroup of Phoebe Bridgers, Julianne Baker, and Lucy Dacus, and they're all American, all from different parts of America, but they again can do it for real. They do a lot of straight harmony, and they also have a lot of ties to the folk community. They're collaborating there with Ye Vagabonds, an Irish duo, and the instruments we were hearing there under the three-part harmony was a little bit of a cello. I think it's a cello, could be a viola, but also a harmonium, the old pedal harmonium, creating the sort of droning chord under there. And that particular version has a rather poignant history. It was released in 2023, and the cover of the single release, if you look it up on streaming service, you'll see it, is a picture of Sinead O'Connor, who passed away that year, July 2023, and the recording was dedicated to her memory. So it's a sort of a parting glass to one of their influences, so it has that extra sort of layer of meaning.
Absolutely amazing. It was adopted in Ireland. It became a staple in Irish traditional music, especially at wakes and social farewells. And here we go. The parting glass, or stirrup cup, was the final hospitality offered to a departing guest. Once they mounted the horse, it was one final drink to fortify them for their travels. So there you go. And it's not just in Ireland, I believe that is across several countries and continents. Lovely, lovely stuff, Joe. And again, what a great selection of music at this time of night. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Lovely. Right, Joe, I can tell you that you are really challenging the listeners tonight with your quiz. There's a lot of head scratching going on. I think we're being asked for a bit of a runaround again. So, Joe, would you mind just reminding us of the quiz? Remember, 85058 is the way to get involved. And here's a little reminder from Joe.
Okay, let's do it again, the quiz. Backwards audio, I'm going to give you the year and you're going to hear the harmony bit of the song. Just name the song. This one from 1966. Number 2, this is a British band from 1969. Number 3, I only want the song name. The song's very famous, perhaps more famous than the artists that covered it, but this is from 1954. Little clue there, Gordon. Mab, 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 mab is bum, 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 up, right? If you just say mab backwards, that's what you get. So, moving on to number 4. This track came out, this is a male vocal trio from 1969. Number 5, this group released this recording in 1966. I think it was recorded in 65. Number 6, this was released in 2024 and is still in the Hot 100 today. And finally, number 7, this is a classic from 2001. So you have the harmony, you have the year, just name the song.
Absolutely brilliant stuff, Joe. Keep them coming in. 8508. We would love to hear from you tonight. Right, excellent stuff. Great, Joe. Great, Joe. Now, we're still after your songs, by the way, that have something musically in common with others. If you've got something in mind, let us know, 85058. And remember, email gordon@bbc.co.uk if it needs a bit of a longer explanation. Now, Joe, this is one of your other hats that you wear, isn't it? Musicology. What have you got for us this week that we can have a little listen to?
Okay, so not all musicologist cases begin with a lawsuit. You know, I'm interested in music that sounds similar for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be people suing each other. But of course, the stories that we hear about are when, you know, it's always an interesting story, isn't it? Somebody sues pop star for plagiarism. And to be clear, statistically, most of those people are mistaken. You know, in my work as a forensic musicologist, I've thought many times I should print a T-shirt that says the plaintiff is sadly mistaken and just, you know, because it tends to be true so much of the time. And the reason for that is that people often will hear short bits of melodic similarity between two works. And I'm sure it's one of the logical fallacies. People underestimate just how much music there is out there in the world. So over 2 to 4 bars of diatonic, that means music within the key, you're going to get little melodic fragmentary similarities between works. Then you add to that pop music is a constrained art form. That is, most pop music is in 4/4. It's between 2 and 4 minutes in length. It's in 4 and 8 bar sequences. It has a first-person protagonist. You know, whatever genre of music you're into, those things tend to be true. So within the constraints of the art form, certain things become quite likely as similarities. Which is a long-winded way of saying here's yet another lawsuit that has no merit to it whatsoever. So to jump to the end, these people were full of nonsense and there's nothing in it. But it's interesting why there was nothing in it. So here's the story. So Avril Lavigne had a tune called Girlfriend. A lot of people know. Hey, you, I don't like your girlfriend. In fact, let's just hear that to sort of set the scene. Here it is.
Hey, you, I don't like your girlfriend. No way, think you need a new one. Hey, you, I could be your girlfriend.
So it's kind of a playground taunt. Hey, you, I don't like your girlfriend. And came out, I think, in 2007. And that same year, a chap called Tommy Dunbar, who's the singer and songwriter in a band called the Rubinoos from the 70s, got a pretty good band, actually, another band that used a lot of vocal harmonies. They had a song called I Wanna Be Your Boyfriend that came out in 1979. It sounds like this. Let's do them back to back one more time. Here's Avril 2007. And Rubinoos. Now, I'm sure a lot of Five Live listeners are thinking what a lot of American lawyers think. Oh, my gosh, they're bang to rights. It's so similar. Because we haven't just got a bit of melody. We've got this, hey, you, da, friend. So it's sort of similar pitch-wise. It's very, very similar rhythmically. And it's a 2-bar sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. So it lasts 8 beats, which could be significant enough to be what the lawyers would call substantial. But these cases hinge on whether the similar element is itself original to the earlier songwriter, if you see what I mean. So the plaintiff in these cases has to prove that their idea was unique in the history of the world and therefore protectable by copyright. So unfortunately for the Rubinoos, there was a song also of the identical title called I Wanna Be Your Boyfriend by the Ramones, released in 1976, which sounds like this.
Hey, little girl, I wanna be your boyfriend. Sweet little girl.
So we can automatically say that they did not invent the lyric phrase, I want to be your boyfriend, which is such a commonplace expression, probably wouldn't be protectable by copyright. But it doesn't have that hey, hey, you thing that that both of the songs have. So maybe the Rubinoos have a point. Unfortunately, the Rubinoos track came out in 1979, and in 1965, the Rolling Stones did this. So not an original idea in 79. Probably not an original idea in 65, but, you know, you can only take the prior art search back so far. But then they had the idea of, you know, the Rubinoos added it to that dum-ti-dum, dum-ti-dum-ti, that sort of rather boppy beat. And in 1965, the Rolling Stones did this. So not an original idea in 79. Probably not an original idea in 65, but, you know, you can only take the prior art search back so far. But then they had the idea of, you know, the Rubinoos added it to that dum-ti-dum-ti, that sort of rather boppy beat. Maybe that's original. But let's talk to Tony Basil in 1981. So clearly, none of the ideas in the Rubinoos song were original to that song. And of course, pop music's been talking about girlfriends and boyfriends and falling in love forever, for as long as there's been songs. So these are what the lawyers would call not protectable expression. You can't protect these ideas if they are suitably common. So a lot of the job of someone like me, I wasn't involved in that case, but a lot of the job of a musicologist is doing the repertoire research to figure out what is original and what is simply a commonplace building block of pop music that is very unprotectable. So let's go through them real fast. Here's Avril again. Rubinoos 79. Ramones 76.
Hey, little girl, I wanna be your boyfriend. Sweet little girl.
Rolling Stones 1965. And of course, Tony Basil 1981. So I think we've known each other long enough, Gordon, that you probably know what's coming next.
I'm looking forward to it, Joe.
So Rafi and I, we used a technique called stem extraction to pull the vocals out, because all of those songs are based on a 2-bar phrase, da 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 da, and variations on that. Even Hey Mickey is based on that. So once we had those vocals, and we basically we made a band out of Tony Basil's drums and the guitar and bass player from the Rubinoos, and sort of mashed it up a little bit with some compressors, and now we have created, what is it? I think it's about 30 seconds long piece of music, which I'm calling "Hey, You, Get Off of My Boyfriend." So
Brilliant, Joe.
Here we go. 30 seconds of too much mashup. Here it comes.
Oh, Joe and Rafi, take a bow. That is absolutely outstanding. I think that's your greatest mashup yet. What was it? Hey, you, get off of my boyfriend.
Hey, you, get off of my boyfriend. There's so many ways you could combine those words. We had about 10 titles for it, and we thought that was the best one.
You have done brilliantly. That, and Rafi, fair play to you both. That is outstanding. It deserves to be played all day tomorrow on 5 Live. We're going to have a word with people about it. Excellent stuff, Joe. And we should say, right, there's one technical term I need you just to explain. There's the classic settled out of court. Joe, because I believe that they were basically told that it's absolutely fine. In fact, I'm going to read it to you. We're satisfied that any similarities between the two songs resulted from Avril and Luke's use of certain common and widely used lyrics. We therefore completely exonerate Avril and Luke from any wrongdoing of any kind in connection with the claims made by us in our lawsuit. But settled out of court has an implication, doesn't it, Joe? Am I right in saying that?
Well, often we infer that money changed hands, which is often what settled out of court means. And, you know, there are examples of people doing that, and some, you know, defendants doing that and saying that they regret it later. Yeah. But, you know, looking at that quote, Gordon, from Tommy Dunbar, we are satisfied that any similarities between the two songs resulted from Avril and Luke's use of certain and common widely used lyrics. Reading between those lines, what that means is, we consulted a musicologist and they told us we didn't have a prayer. You know, I think that's what's really going on here.
Excellent.
Because, you know, they're admitting that those elements are not protectable by copyright, which means someone in the know has told them, because they must have thought they had a case up front because they sued. You know, and suing is not a cheap thing to do. It's the cost of lawyers in America. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it was ill-advised, and anyone who I mean, everyone knows Get Off of My Cloud. Hey, hey, you. What were they thinking?
I know. And Neil McFarlane said, I was just shouting at the radio that it was Get Off My Cloud until Joe told us. Excellent stuff. Right, Joe, brilliant. Loved that. We've just got time to play the quiz out, haven't we? And work out what the answers are, because everybody's keen to find out, Joe.
I think so. I'll be interested to know. I hope I didn't make it too hard, but these are big hits. You know, I have a rule that anything under 100 million doesn't count it on the streaming services. So here are the answers. Question 1, the song came out in 1966. You should have been listening for Simon and Garfunkel, who we mentioned earlier. The song, of course, Scarborough Fair Canticle.
Tell her to find me a savor of love, a sprinkling of leaves, parsley, sage, rosemary.
And for number 2, a British band from 1969, it was, of course, the Beatles, the song Because.
Because the sky is blue, it makes me cry.
For number 3, you could be forgiven for not getting the Chordettes, but the song was Mr. Sandman.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Bum, 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 bum. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Bum, 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 bum.
For number 4, male vocal trio can only be Crosby, Stills and Nash from their first album. This is Helplessly Hoping.
Helplessly hoping her harlequin, others nearby.
For number 5, released in 65 and then again in 66, this was the Mamas and the Papas and California Dreamin'. Still in the charts in 2024, Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars, this is Die With a Smile. And finally, from 2001, it was Destiny's Child and the song Survivor. So I'm hoping for some sixes, maybe a 7, Gordon. What have we got?
Absolutely outstanding. Well, Ashley, you usually do better. Come on, only Simon and Garfunkel and Destiny's Child today, but good effort nonetheless. Catherine and Cornwall got 4, good effort. Let me tell you now, 6 right. Cameron the Hibbie from East Kilbride, good effort, sir. Benny, I can tell you, regular listener, has done very well. He's got 6, I think. No, that could be 7, actually. So, yep, champions with all the right answers. Mog and Vanessa in Manchester, who are regular listeners. Joe, well done, Mog and Vanessa. We love it when you listen in. And of course, Neil in Chester, who's hot on their heels, and he's managed a hat trick, Joe, because I'll tell you, that's 3 weeks on the bounce that he has cracked the Dr. Beat quiz. So Neil,
golden ears, Neil, golden ears.
Neil will be wondering if he can get some kind of scholarship to Berkeley at some point if he keeps this run going, but the answer's no. Joe, I've just got a quick few messages for you here. A good show tonight, Dr. Beat. I'm very surprised to hear the Beatles Because from their Abbey Road album in the quiz. I thought Doc would have highlighted that for the multi-layered vocal track specifically back in '69 with limited recording facilities. I think you've given them a good mention there, haven't you?
Layered vocals. Three singers, but multiplied up with multi-tracking. Absolutely right.
Joe, one question here from Paolo Nutanio, which is Donald on X. He says, what does Dr. Beat think about the Beyonce course at Yale, and has he been approached to teach it?
I have not, but my phone number's easy to find.
Excellent stuff. Dr. Beat, it's been such a pleasure having you on, as always. That was brilliant tonight. And as we always say, you can have a listen to the playlist, can't you, Joe?
Absolutely, online on the blog. Just go to your search engine and type in 5 Live Joe Bennett. You should find it.
Excellent stuff. Dr. Beat will be back next Monday from midnight. Please come and join us for that. And thank you to everybody who got involved tonight. Remember, Dalton Adebayo is up from 1 o'clock. He's waiting in the wings to come on air. All that remains is for me to say goodnight. On behalf of Dr. Beat and myself, we'll catch you next week. See you later on.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.